Welcome to the series on parenting and about inculcating some good food habits in our child. Being a parent, how do we balance the balance between what we have read, what we have understood? How do we move between the phases and what is the need of the child? What is our individual situations? So, in the earlier parts, we touched upon what is the need of a child in terms of when it comes to food. In the second part, we looked at certain general guidelines that have helped me in the parenting of my two kids that I have come so far with the experience and how it is helping even today for the kids when they have grown into an adult. Those habits have helped them open up to becoming a more mature human beings. Of course, with each phase, as the needs and the understanding changes, when kids become adults, they will have their own understanding about certain things and then they will tweak their own lifestyle as per the situation or as per the demands of the day. In this third part, we'll try to understand what are the must haves that we should do and which can help us, and how do we balance the balance between ensuring that we are not too oversensitive as a parent, or on the other hand, we are not just too careless in terms of when it comes to developing a food habit. So there is a delicate balance. It is an ongoing process, and in this process, at times feel you will have to keep on analyzing yourself at every maybe 15 days, 10 days, how it is happening. So whenever actually we blame the child, that child is like this, he doesn't understand, he doesn't eat, or maybe he's just always hungry and he eats a lot and that is his need. Sometimes maybe as a parent we just fail to understand what is we as a parent are doing wrong and we just simply blame the child. So in my parenting, my experience, I would say that if something is going wrong, if you feel something is wrong, I'm not saying necessarily it would always be, but as a parent, if you're cautious enough, things will become good and better. And if you feel that certain things needs to be addressed, any first step is first you analyze the situation where you need to improve. Once you improve, once you understand that, maybe you will try to do certain tweaking to your own understanding, and that will then see how it helps in the behavior of the child. A child, no child is wrong. Every child is like uh, accepting towards anything that the parent says. So it is up to us how we are guiding our kids. Uh, when we say the needs in terms of food that the child has, the basic needs are pretty limited. It is up to us how much exposure we give to the child to the different aspects or of the good food or bad food or junk food. Nothing is good, nothing is bad as long as you are able to balance what you offer to your child. So this series I will have another series or a session where I'll talk about the type of food that the child should be provided. You can look at that blog. In this video, what I would try to look at how as a parent we can balance the balance between giving excess attention and sticking too much to our child, and maybe in our own excess love we may overfeed the child even if he's not hungry or if he likes certain items. Excess love, excess attention, especially when you are a new parent, or he is a newborn baby, or maybe sometimes you are the only child. At times such there is a possibility of going into this kind of phase. The second extreme to this is like a half baked attention or an always hungry child. When the parent's attention is half baked, or when the parent is too busy or too occupied in other things, they do not give proper attention. You may find children who are, I would like to term that as like always hungry. So they have sufficient food, they have enough in their house, but they are, because they have not followed certain practices, the child always will feel hungry towards it. How do we balance between these two, or how do we analyze and understand either if we are on one of the extremes? So when we look at excess attention, or you know is our child overfeed? So if you look at it like feeding or giving food multiple times a day at a shorter interval, shorter than required, or whenever child cries you just give him food, then that may lead to, or that may turn into an overfeed in the child, in the terms of giving food. When I say multiple times means there are fixed time slots. You can look into the other video that I have uploaded. What are the time slots? Sometimes parent use the other option point is the sometimes parent use food as a distraction or wanting to keep child engaged. If a child is crying, maybe just give him food so that he will stop crying for some time. But that does not work. Please do not use food as a distraction, or please do not use food as wanting to keep your child engaged into something. Food is a basic necessity and a need. It should be treated as a need. Is the child asking for or eating only one type of food? Another reason for having giving excess attention or eating overfed child is that when a child wants to eat some only one type of food and he is very like cheese, sometimes kids love cheese, kids love chocolate, and a parent is happy or just giving them without looking at how much quantity of cheese or chocolate a child has eaten, it can turn into an overfed child. When I talk of the other extreme about half-baked attention, here we are referring to like when a mother is very busy or she has multiple things at hand, and or she is rushed for work. Nowadays, every woman, mostly the women are working, or she may have two kids, two twins to attend to. So, or she's just too tired sometimes when a young mother is there and she stops feeding because she becomes tired or she is pressed for time. So at times the child may still be hungry, and then just because we are not able to follow our schedule properly, we may want to just hush through the sitting and hush through the activity. Especially when I talk in terms of a younger mothers, especially at night times, or especially when they come in the office, like for me, I had to tell myself that I'm a working mother. So I used to come home to feed my child, and I had taken an extra 1 hour layoff from the office because I didn't wanted to rush into, and I wanted to give myself that proper half an hour to 45 minutes to 1 hour so that I could feed my child properly and I could take some rest and then go to office. Workout mechanisms where you can get extra help, extra support during this time period, especially when child comes from maybe school and he's just wanting to sleep. Also, those are one of the times when you want to rush through some of the activity and you want to sleep for the afternoon. Now, failing to discipline yourself and therefore your child, it will make things difficult. So sit down, complete the portion of the food, and get things done. That is the best way to do. If you fail to discipline yourself, don't expect your child to follow any discipline and be good. So you have to discipline your own self. Understanding this balance between the balance. This is one of the series. Some two extremes I've given. Let's look at how we can, going forward, what is the balance. So having said that, when we have looked into what are the two extremes of a parenting that we can get into when we are young parents or as we grow into more mature parents, how to balance. So pay attention to details. Your child constantly gives you signals, and as a parent, let us be attentive enough to seeing, listening, sensing, evaluating, and learning. It is not the child who is learning, it is we as a parent who have to learn how to adjust to our being a new parent. It is our learning. It is our discipline to sit through the meal, which will help us being attentive enough to seeing, listening, and sensing, and making our own evaluation of what is the need, how our child, and what is the unique needs of the child is. The second aspect which will help us balance this balance between you know giving half-baked attention and giving excess attention is like having an eye on time. When as a mother, when as a young mother, when you start feeding the child, or when you start uh, giving him food, or her giving him her food, always have an eye on your time. This is the habit that I developed during my parenting stage. Prior to being a parent, sometimes we are carefree and we do not pay that much attention to how much time we ourselves have spent because we are not responsible. But now understand responsible for any other human being. when we become a parent, it is not that it is we are responsible for our own selves, but we are also responsible for a young soul or a young child, and who is totally dependent on us. And that is why it is most important that we develop this habit, that we start to keep an eye on the time. This has helped me a lot. So what I used to observe was how much time he or she was eating, or how much time I had set for a particular feeding when I am sitting with my child to feed my child. What time the feeding or the eating actually started. We talked about some schedules in the earlier video of the genetic guidelines. So how much was the time that was actually spent in feeding? What time it stopped? When was it that it stopped? When did we stop eating? And hence, from the last time that we actually stopped, how much time gap elapsed between the last stop and the next beginning. That is how we define whether that time gap between the two fields is good enough or not. If we have, it is linked, you just cannot change, you just cannot follow one process and ignore the other. So this having an eye on time is a habit that we need to develop as a parent, which will help us understand whether we are making a good balance between being attentive and being overfed. PDCA, plan, do, check, act. That's a cycle that needs to be followed. You prepare yourself, gather information for that phase of parenting, know good practices. What are the good practices? What are some parents who have been successful in doing it? Like you're watching this video, I'm sure this is the phase where you're gathering the information. You by doing keeping an eye on the time, you are actually taking a statistics of stock of your own things. And when you are having what works for you, when you have tried certain things, check yourself if what is being done is working or not. If it is not working, why it is not working. If it has worked, for what reasons it has worked. So when certain things gives you expected results, it is good, continue that practice. If certain things have not given that result but it has worked for someone else, do a little bit deeper, dig deeper, whether that you have yourself have understood the concept clearly, or is it like you have understood it in, you know incompletely, or you have implemented it with, which needs a better correction. When certain experienced doctors or parents, they say that this is something which has helped me in good practice, at least you should give yourself a, minimum 21 days time and practice. Keep on tweaking your own understanding, your own way of doing things, and see what, and then take the chance. Don't just neglect or don't brush off certain practices which have been followed for some time and which have helped for many, that it worked for them, and that's why it maybe my situation is unique, so it may not work for me. That is a wrong way of parenting. If it has worked for 8 people or 9 people, that means there is certain, I would call it magic behind that madness, whatever. Maybe you may not understand it, maybe you, but before you give up on to certain good practice, actually just try to evaluate what needs to be tweaked. Plan, do, check, act. This continues during various phases of parenting. It is not just related to your food habit, it is useful for other phases as well. So, having said that, in our earlier videos, we talked about making a schedule, following it through, and then readjusting as per child's growing phase and needs. So, when I say plan, do, check, act, the next, when you are in a continuous mode of doing the checking, you will understand that as your child grows from being a young adult to a toddler to a teenage person, his quantum of food that he wants, his liking for the food that he wants, his schedules that he has will gradually change. So maybe the time gap between two eating might gradually change, but that's why that PDCA is required, and that's why that making a schedule is also required, so that your schedules are changing, okay, but keeping a schedule remains constant. Okay, that remains constant. PDCA, plan, do, check, act, that remains constant. What tweaking you are doing, that may change. I hope I have been able to share certain guidelines that have helped me in my parenting. I hope it helps you as well. If you have any queries or any questions, please do feel free to contact me through my blog site and as a comment in this video. I will try to connect back with you in case anything else is required specifically for your own individual needs. Thank you so much. I do hope you like this video. I look forward to receiving your comments on this. My blog site is monikapatel2020wordpress.com and this YouTube playlist is Monica Patel 2020. I look forward to receiving your inputs. Happy parenting.